A guy named Eric Metaxas wrote an article for the Wall Street Journal on Christmas, and in the article he claims that science proves God is real. It's amazing that the Wall Street Journal ran this. Now, granted, it was in the opinion area, but you can't have somebody say science proves God is real. It's just silly. So, is this guy a scientist, by the way? Nope. But does that stop him? Of course not. He writes an article claiming to know the conclusions of science. He says, quote, in 1966, Time magazine ran a cover story asking, is God dead? Many have accepted the cultural narrative that he's obsolete, that as science progresses, there is less need for a God to explain the universe. Yet it turns out that the rumors of God's death were premature. More amazing is the relatively recent case for his existing comes from a surprising place, science itself. Please tell me more. He says the odds of life existing on another planet are growing. Intelligent design, anyone? So, now keep all this in mind, because that line especially is important. The odds of life existing on another planet are growing. Intelligent design, anyone? Keep that line in mind as we go through here. Now, let me sum up the core of his argument here, and then, of course, I'll respond to it. He basically says, number one, the apparent fine-tuning of the universe for life is explained by naturalistic design, naturalistic non-design, supernatural design, or supernatural non-design, or some combination of those factors. So he's trying to boil it down. He's like, look, these are the only options as to how life could be fine-tuned. Then he says, number two, the apparent fine-tuning of the universe for life is not explained by naturalistic design, naturalistic non-design, supernatural non-design, or a combination of those factors. And then he concludes, number three, therefore, the apparent fine-tuning of the universe for life is explained by supernatural design. Voila. Science, bitch. Proven God is real. Okay, first of all, that's not science. Do you not know what science is? He's trying to structure a logical argument, right? He's trying to use logic to prove that God exists. Now, he fails, but at least he's using a logical structure here in how he's arguing. But that's not science. That's a logical argument and a scientific argument. They're not the same thing. They're different things. One has more philosophical roots. The other is an empirical process by which you ascertain the truth about nature and reality. You didn't have a hypothesis and then test your hypothesis and then go through all the steps of the scientific method. He uses an argument, a logical argument, and goes, that's science. It's not science. Do you not know what science is? Okay, that is really sad. Now, let me give you his conclusion. He says, quote, today there are more than 200 known parameters necessary for a planet to support life, every single one of which must be perfectly met or the whole thing falls apart. Without a massive planet like Jupiter nearby whose gravity will draw away asteroids, 1,000 times as many would hit Earth's surface. The odds against life in the universe are simply astonishing. Yet here we are not only existing, but talking about existing. What can account for it? Now, remember when I told you to remember the thing he said at the beginning of the article? Let's revisit that. He said, the odds of life existing on another planet are growing. Intelligent design, anyone? So he's saying it would be proof of God that there's likely intelligent life on other planets now, that we're learning that. That's proof of God that there's probably life elsewhere. He says that's proof of God. At the same time, he says the proof of God is the opposite. The proof of God is that it's highly unlikely. The odds against, quote, the odds against life in the universe are simply astonishing. Yet here we are, not only existing, but talking about existing. What can account for it? So wait, you're saying it's proof of God that there's life all over the universe, and that there's likely intelligent life everywhere. That's proof of God, and it's also proof of God that there's not intelligent life all around the universe, and you think we're the only one, and that there's a reason why we are the only one, because the odds are against it, because all these factors have to be in a row. Which is it? See, you've set up a non-falsifiable claim. You're saying it's evidence of God if there's multiple forms of intelligent life, and it's evidence of God if there's only us. Which is it? You can't have it both ways. Now, also, let me just add that the reality is, this is from a report November 5th of last year, quote, at least 8.8 billion Earth-like planets are in just our galaxy. Never mind the universe. Never mind if there is a multiverse. So 8.8 billion in just our galaxy. So the chances that there is life elsewhere is astronomical. But now, let's address the core of his argument, because his argument is an argument we see all the time from people who are trying to rationalize their position, their belief in God. What they say is, I've heard this argument from O'Reilly, we've heard it from a lot of people. They say, well, look around you. I mean, everything is so perfect and complex, and do you understand how many things are going on in the construction of your eye and how perfect your eye needs to be built in order for it to get the light and perceive everything around it and transmit the messages to your brain? It's just too much of a complex design in order for there not to be a designer. That's the argument. That's what it boils down to. What's the response to that? Okay, let's accept that. Damn, man, you're right. If something is really complex and really designed, it's got to have a designer. So who designed God? That's when, this is what happens to their reasoning when they hit that point. They go, they just shit the bed. Like, no, but see, the thing is, we need a logical explanation, and you need to design and a designer up until the point when we talk about humans and we talk about this world, but then if you talk about the next world or the creator of us, then that person doesn't need a designer. That person could exist in perfect form forever. But wait, you just threw out the rules of logic that you were using for the other point you made. It's easy to just say when it gets inconvenient and when your point is proven wrong, it's easy to just blow up the game and say the game doesn't matter anymore. Now I declare that God can live outside of logic and stuff. But then you're not abiding by the same rules that you started with. You just changed the rules to suit your argument. That point is its own fallacy. The idea that science proves God is absurd, because science is very clear. There is no evidence for a God. And they say very humbly, we don't know. Look, there's no evidence for it. If there is evidence for it, we'll mention it, we'll bring it up, and we'll change our beliefs accordingly. We'll change our beliefs with the evidence, but we just don't know. Science is humble. Science cares about the facts. Science cares about the evidence or the proof, the reality. So they say we don't know. That's the real thing science says. There's no evidence for it. We don't know. So the scientific position is to be an agnostic atheist. So the guy's just lying about science, but he also doesn't understand the counter-argument to his main argument. There's a great thing Christopher Hitchens said to Sean Hannity one time when they were debating each other. Christopher Hitchens said, you give me the terrible impression that you're a guy who's never read the counter-arguments to your argument, or something to that effect. And that's what everybody who makes this argument, that's what it reminds me of. If everything has to be designed, if everything that seems complex has to be designed, if everything that seems designed has to have a designer, well, then obviously God, since he created us, you have to be super intricate and super complex to create us. You have to be incredibly designed and powerful to create us. Who created the creator? And then who created the creator that created the creator? And then who created the creator that created the creator that created the creator? And the list goes on, and that's why they call it the fallacy of passing the buck. Anybody who argues that there's science proves that God exists, they don't understand science. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They're making it up because they have an emotional need to want to believe in a God and to want to think God is real. If you want to believe that, I'm not coming to take that away from you. It's a free country. I'm not the thought police. You can believe whatever religion you want to believe. You can believe whatever God proposition you want to believe. That's fine, man. But don't lie about it and pretend like the science or the logic is lined up behind you, because it's not, and you've never read the counter-argument to your silly argument, which can be destroyed in just a little bit like we did right now.